Eminem's ex-wife.
People really don't know who the woman behind the headlines really is.
Breaks her silence.
It just seems as if he used me.
And shares her heartbreak.
I went home and tried to commit suicide.
This is real gripping stuff.
Today on Dr. Keith Adlow.
Today we're going to hear from two people who say their lives were changed completely when they became household names. Our first guest, Kim Mathers, became famous simply because her megastar ex-husband Eminem chose to write about her in his songs. But since then, the media's followed her every move and past mistakes. Take a look. Call him Marshall Mathers or Slim Shady, but there is only one Eminem. He rocketed to the top of the charts with success so dominant that Eminem became the greatest crossover artist rap has ever known. Using his rough childhood and real-life issues as musical inspiration, Eminem sold over 80 million records worldwide. He won 9 Grammy Awards and even took home an Oscar for writing the theme song to 8 Mile, the film that featured elements of his hardscrabble life. But Eminem's triumph as a rapper, producer, and actor hasn't been without controversy. His provocative lyrics are routinely denounced, and there have also been reports of drug abuse and violence. During Eminem's rise to fame and the whirlwind that followed, one woman was the constant in his life. Kim Mathers met Eminem when she was only 14, and their daughter Haley was born just 5 years later. Next came the years of drama, infidelity, arrests, suicide attempts, drugs, and custody battles. They even got married and divorced, not once, but twice. And through it all, Kim has remained silent. We sat down with Kim Mathers in Detroit in one of her first ever on-camera interviews. She tells a lot about who she is, where she came from, and how her relationship with Eminem all began. Take a look.
Well, growing up, we lived in Detroit. It was me and my sister and my mom. She was a single mother. We don't know our father. My mom was on welfare. She worked under the table at a bar. We were so poor that my sister and I had to shoplift just to get food when we were between the ages of 4 and 5. We would literally end up walking the streets looking for food or money or asking for people for rides, strangers. Me and Marshall had a lot of common because we both had rough childhoods, I think. My first year of high school was when I met Marshall. We would both walk in the front door and skip out the back door and walk to a friend's house and just hang out there all day. And had so many absences that we ended up failing, you know, 9th grade 3 times. When me and Marshall started dating, we had always planned on staying together forever and knew that it was like love and real, and we had planned on having a family and just always being there for each other. And I never in my wildest dreams expected him to become so famous. His success would completely turn our lives around and just ruin the relationship and the bond that we had and destroy our family.
Kim shared a lot more with us, and you're going to see that in a moment. But here to help us better understand what Kim Mathers and Eminem have gone through is Star Magazine's editor-at-large, Jill Dobson. Welcome. Good to see you. Why is everybody fascinated with this woman?
Well, they're a very fascinating couple. They've been together for 17 years. They started dating when she was just 14 years old. And the two of them have been in the public eye because Eminem has focused on Kim in so many of his songs. So many lyrics talk about her. So even though she hasn't chosen to be famous, she certainly is. She is. And for your readers, then, they want to know more and more and more about her because it's just a hint as to who she is. Right, exactly. He's told us his side of the story and portrays her in a very negative light. She very rarely speaks out at all. So kudos to you guys for getting this interview with her.
All right.
Fascinating.
There's more to it. We asked Kim why she kept silent for so long, and she said, look, over the years, she and Eminem, they were on and off. She knew if she spoke out, he'd be very upset with her. She worried he might never forgive her. It was a chance that she wasn't willing to take, but now she realized they're not getting back together, and here's what she had to say.
I've decided to come forward and speak out because of the way that I believe that the world or people in general view me because of the things that have been said about me by Marshall on record and in print.
Kim feels that Marshall, as she calls Eminem, has unfairly portrayed her in his songs, and the media only focuses on the negative aspects of her life.
People think that I am not a good mother, that I was not a good wife, that I'm loose and easy, you know, promiscuous, that I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic, you know, and I have had problems with addiction, but, you know, I haven't used in over 2.5 years, so you won't see my name in the paper. Another year goes by and Kim hasn't used. But the minute I make a mistake, you know, it's everywhere.
Kim has admitted to using drugs in the past, but she says it just isn't fair that her mistakes make it onto the nightly news.
It's extremely hard living my life in the public eye. Like, I didn't want to be famous. I don't have a talented bone in my body. I didn't never want anyone to know anything about me. And because Marshall chose to be famous, which is fine. There's so many famous people that are out there that have wives and children at home that you don't even know their names. You don't even know they're married. You know, but because Marshall's chosen to put me and our children out there like that, you know, you hear about us all the time, and we didn't want to be famous, he did, you know? I don't think it's fair to me or my kids.
Kim spoke very candidly to us about her side of the story, and she says the problems in their relationship started years ago, around the time Marshall became known to us as Eminem.
I believe that maybe Marshall uses his private life a lot of times, and he'll only put the negative of his private life out there, you know, maybe to get a pity trip or sympathy from people, or maybe it's just his way of therapy. I'm not sure why he does it, but I'm tired of hearing about it, really.
Years before Kim's private life was exposed in a song, Kim and Eminem had a baby and decided to get married.
He was getting ready to start his first tour, and I think we were both worried about what was going to happen while he was gone. We just wanted, you know, something more binding. So we did it. We got married. It was exciting. It was small and little and cheesy, and none of my family was there, but it was still, it was exciting. I felt like we really loved each other when we did it.
Eminem's career was blowing up, and the rap star lifestyle was about to consume Kim's husband.
I was hoping that when he went on tour, and because I seen how fast his career was taking off, I was hoping that that would keep him faithful and grounded to me. That was my main goal. His first tours, when our relationship really started to deteriorate, he was cheating on me a lot and drinking and using drugs, and he wasn't home, and it just wasn't good.
Kim was left in Detroit with a baby, waiting for the man she loved to come home.
Right when Marshall's first tour started is when his ego just went, you know, he was untouchable. Like, he was God. That's what he thought, you know. Every time I talked to him, I wasn't allowed to question him about what was going on. If I did, I was just told that I should be grateful that he still talks to me, you know, how many women throw themselves at him. And I was just pretty much felt like a piece of crap.
All right, well, you've interviewed a lot of people at Star Magazine, these celebrity couples. Is what she's describing, Kim Mathers, common, the sense of loneliness and isolation as the fame of your spouse builds?
Certainly, there's the temptation factor, which she mentioned, that women are throwing themselves at him, so that's part of it. The time apart, he's on tour, she's back home in Detroit raising their daughter, and of course with them, there's the problem that he's put her in the public eye, she doesn't want to be there, and they're actually living in totally different worlds.
Right, and she's never built a career for herself. Obviously, that wasn't her desire, because she could, right? Like, you guys would write about her if she wanted to be interviewed.
She could be famous so quickly if she wanted it, because her name is already famous. She's a beautiful, well-spoken woman, and she's fascinating to all of us. She really could be in this industry, but she's chosen not to, and people don't really respect that. They just keep prying into her life.
Yes, right. We're going to keep prying. While Eminem has been living it up in Los Angeles, Kim says she's been back home with their daughter, barely making ends meet. More with Kim Mathers when we return.
Coming up, Kim Mathers reveals the untold story about her failed marriage to rap superstar Eminem.
When Marshall went on tour, I felt lonely, depressed, disgusted with his behavior. Some days I just cried all day. It was hard.
And later, Kim Mathers talks openly about the night she tried to take her own life.
He had a blow-up doll up on stage that looked like me, and he was physically beating it and kicking it around. And that night, I went home and I tried to commit suicide.
Long last.
We're back with our interview with Eminem's ex-wife, Kim Mathers, who recently sat down with us in Detroit in one of her first ever on-camera interviews. And with us today is Jill Dobson from Star Magazine. It's not your first on-camera interview. You've been here many times. All right. Well, when did this guy become so famous?
It was around 1999. His Slim Shady LP came out. Millions and millions sold, and he ended up winning about 9 Grammys for it, all sorts of musical success.
So that's it. And then your privacy becomes really hard to maintain if you're in any way associated with this man.
Right, and not just that, but as Kim mentioned in one of our interviews, you can be the wife of a famous person and stay out of the spotlight, but he mentioned Kim in song after song after song on this album, so everyone who's a fan of Eminem knows all about Kim, or
thinks they do. Okay, when we talked with Kim, she told us how difficult it was to be at home raising their daughter while her husband Eminem went out on tour without her.
After me and Marshall got married and I came back to Michigan, I was staying with my mom. He went back out to California to prepare for his first tour and whatever. He was doing the details for all of that. And I still worked for maybe 2.5 years after Marshall got signed because I didn't see really any of the money. I mean, maybe a check every other week for $800, $900, or if I called and said, you know, Haley needs this or I need this, you know, that's the only time I would see anything.
Money was tight, and the time alone was hard on Kim.
When Marshall went on tour, I felt lonely, depressed, disgusted with his behavior. Some days I was angry and wanted to hurt him, you know, and some days I just cried all day. It was hard. You know, we had never been apart, and, you know, he made so many promises before he left, you know, he wasn't going to develop any bad habits, and he wasn't going to be with any women no matter how much they threw themselves at him, and it just was the complete opposite. You know, that was my husband, the man that I loved, and he was making me feel like, you know, just another one of his groupies that he, you know, did what he wanted to while he was in that state and just, you know, moved on to the next. I was nothing to him at that time.
Then Kim talked to us about how her public humiliation led to one of the darkest moments of her life.
One night I was at a concert of Marshall's and he was singing a song that was about me, and he had a blow-up doll up on stage that looked like me, and he was physically beating it and kicking it around and threw it out to the crowd. And just seeing the crowd response and everybody cheering, singing the words and laughing, and it just felt like, you know, everyone was staring at me and knew that it was about me. And that night I went home and I tried to commit suicide.
All right, well, I don't need to tell you that for anyone to try to commit suicide has to be a very, very dark moment. She had no hope, apparently, and yet people didn't really, I don't know, empathize with her, come to her side.
Right.
From your perspective in the celebrity world, why not? Why wouldn't they say, he's a bad guy, we need to help her?
I think that Kim really has become a character in the public eye. No one really thinks of her as a real person. They think of her as this person in these songs who is a bad person. And so she's been dehumanized, so to speak, to use one of your words.
Yeah, one of my words.
And people didn't really realize that this is a real individual in real pain.
And sort of, in very concrete terms, he dehumanized her by creating this doll.
And she was at that concert just humiliated.
Okay, well, even though Kim and Eminem divorced, Kim told us they still stayed in touch and thus began their on-again, off-again relationship.
All I wanted was a normal family. I just wanted to go to work a 9 to 5, you know, and have a husband and us come home, you know, get our kids from daycare and sit down and eat together and watch movies together and be able to go shopping together or to the park. That's all I wanted.
Kim and Eminem's marriage couldn't withstand the temptations of fame.
Our marriage failed because I was unfaithful and he was unfaithful. It just, at that point in time, that we really didn't have anything in common. He had went one way and I went on a different way. After our first divorce, I moved not far from where he was living, and I don't know, we did our own things basically, you know, but we were still seeing each other off and on, you know. Sometimes we were serious, sometimes it was just, you know, comfortable, casual sex. And then I developed a severe problem with drugs and alcohol. Got arrested for possession, drunk driving, and then, I don't know, just
I was incarcerated. I did rehab.
Kim had developed a drug habit, and she claims her ex-husband was having the same problem.
I slowly started to realize, like, he had a lot of the same behavior that I had when I was going through an addiction problem. And I was constantly questioning him about it, and it just started fights. Like, I would get kicked out, he would kick me out, and I'd have to go stay with my mom. And then he finally came clean and admitted, you know, that he did have a problem, but and that he was going to get help for it.
All right, Jill, put this in perspective for us in terms of Eminem's career. So we get it, the marriage is crumbling. Things are not good at home. But what's happening on the road for him at this point?
Well, it's the opposite. As bad as things were in their relationship, and here they are getting their first divorce in 2001, he's winning Grammys, he's breaking records for all the albums he's selling, and he's gearing up for the film 8 Mile, which was based partially on his life. He starred in it, and he even won an Oscar for the song Lose Yourself that he wrote for the movie.
All right, so giant success, and then this on-again, off-again relationship goes on again. Just when people thought Kim and Eminem's love story had ended after the first divorce, Eminem shocked listeners on a Detroit radio show because he announced that he and Kim weren't just back together, but they were going to get married again for a second time. Listen to...
I want to stop for a second. You just said my wife, Kim. Are you and Kim back together?
Yes, we are back together.
That's good.
And we have reconciled and are probably going to remarry.
Wow. That's great. What would be your plans for that? Would you guys do it somewhere special here in town or go somewhere special away?
Well, you know, the first time we got married, there was like 3 people there. There was like the lady who married us, and I can't remember who else was there, but
plus you didn't have any money back then.
Flower girl, and you know, this time with everything that we've been through, I mean, oh my God, it's been a roller coaster, and you know, I mean, I'm sure people get an idea of the story. Sure. You know, it's like a back and forth relationship, and there's so many people that have those. We just happen to be in the spotlight a little bit.
But she's the one that loved you before you became famous. That's a bond you can never find with anybody else.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to count, like, I mean, off and on or whatever, regardless of the fact, you know, we basically been together for 17 years.
She loved you when you were broke.
Yes, she did.
All right, well, on that radio clip, he's saying, listen, she loved me when I was broke. Do you think that this was an addictive relationship for her? I wonder that as a psychiatrist. And also, I know that since then she said what? That she didn't quite believe that this was all sincere.
Right.
On reflection.
She seems to indicate that she thinks maybe he wanted to marry her for the publicity, and I don't really understand why she chose to remarry him with all the problems that they've had. And I think it was part of what the DJ just mentioned, that she loved him before he was famous. So you have to understand that he can't ever find that with anyone else. So that's part of why they're so connected.
It certainly seems like Eminem was excited to remarry Kim, but when we asked Kim why she'd remarry Eminem, the man she says publicly humiliated her in his music, she had a different story.
After Marshall completed his rehab and came home, he had asked me to marry him, and I said yes, but I thought we were going to wait. I thought we were going to wait a while before, you know, we got married. He asked in December, and he said pick a date, and I said, well, let's just wait, you know, does it have to be right away? And he said, you can pick a date now, and if you don't know now that you want to get married, then you're never going to know, then you can just move out. So I really didn't even want to get married this time. We decided on January 14th, Marshall wanted to do it because it was our, like, 15th year, you know, together from our original day we first started going out. And even on that day, I said, let's just, you know, go through with the ceremony but not sign the marriage license, because I was just afraid that, you know, what would happen if we had to go through a divorce, our kids. And then 41 days later, you know, February 25th, Marshall left. And like a week had went by and he wasn't returning phone calls. And then a month, you know, he didn't come around. And I was really, at that point, you know, very, very not sane.
Kim says she felt pressured into her second marriage with Eminem, and when he left, she wondered if he had manipulated her.
It just seems as if he, I don't know, he used me maybe to, I know he's putting out another album and he's movies are in the works, you know, maybe use me so that people will look at him and go, oh, you know, here he goes again with this crazy broad, you know, what is he going to say this time about her, or what did she do this time to him? And I don't know, I just don't know why he did it.
Even though Kim and Eminem have finalized their second divorce, Kim's back in the headlines now, and you're going to find out why when we come back.
Coming up, find out why Kim Mathers and hip-hop superstars Eminem's relationship was doomed from day one.
I don't think he knows how to treat women because he wasn't treated well by his mother. He just never had a loving relationship, you know, with a woman growing up.
And later, Riken Lemko talks about his on-again, off-again relationship with Lance Bass.
You know, it's a big misconception that there's been some pressure from me or that we were together for any other reason than we really liked each other.
I believe that Marshall has a lot of issues on how to express his love, and I don't think he knows how to treat women because he wasn't treated well by his mother and he had a lot of anger towards her. I think I hate to say that he looked at me like his mom, but, you know, or viewed me like that, but he just never had a loving relationship, you know, with a woman growing up. And I think anytime that we got into a disagreement or an argument, he might have just had visions of his mom or something, or I don't know, treated me the way that he wanted to treat his mom growing up, you know, or maybe he just picked some people that he knows can't pick back at him. I'm not really sure.
We're back featuring an interview with Eminem's ex-wife, Kim Mathers. Now, for 17 years, Kim kept quiet, even while the media harassed her and painted her in a negative light. But now, after recently finalizing her second divorce from Eminem, she's decided to break her silence with us. All right, Jill, we just heard her say, and this is partly a psychiatric issue, but it's partly an entertainment issue.
Right.
She alleges that maybe Eminem's trouble is actually with his mother. Which, you know, sounds like she should be in my office. But here she is in the spotlight. Tell us, is there any truth to that, given what's been reported in the past?
He certainly seems to have a volatile relationship with his mother. The movie 8 Mile was supposed to be based on his life in some ways, and Kim Basinger played his mother and was portrayed in a very negative light, shown to be a drug and alcohol abuser. Also, reportedly, his mother blamed him for his uncle's suicide, and his mother actually brought a $10 million defamation suit against him because of all the negative things he said about his mother in his music. So he's blasting everyone in his music.
Well, we actually talked to Eminem's mom getting ready to do this show, and she was, you know, for a time very hurt about these lyrics. So it's not just Kim. I mean, there are two women who are very upset. Well, in Eminem's music, he's written very hateful things about his mother and about Kim. We asked Kim how she felt about being the subject of, well, the inspiration for his songs.
I can't say what it feels like to have my personal life put into a song. It's Marshall's version of, you know, you can take a small situation and make it into something that's way overblown and out of proportion, you know.
Well, we've been talking a lot about the way in which these lyrics that Eminem writes can hurt people, can hurt Kim. Give us, though, a concrete example, if you would.
Sure. I brought some with me. We've got part of the song 97 Bonnie and Clyde, which is written as if he's speaking to his daughter Haley, his daughter with Kim, and he writes, "Come on, hey, hey, we're going to the beach. Where's Mama? She's taking a little nap in the trunk. And Mama said she wants to show how far she can float. And don't worry about that little boo-boo on her throat."
So, like, very violent stuff.
Right, very much the song. The more you hear about it, the more it's obvious that Kim is badly injured, if not dead, and stuffed in the trunk of his car.
And, of course, people buy this stuff, and it involves his little girl. Totally inappropriate. Right. You have another example for us?
Right. Also in the song Mockingbird, he references Kim's drug use. Also written as if he's speaking to Haley. "Daddy went to California with his CD and met Dr. Dre and flew you and Mama out to see me. Then you started seeing Daddy on the TV, and Mama didn't like it. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Mama developed a habit."
All right, so disclosing her substance abuse, talking about violence against women, and do you get feedback at the magazine that fans resent this, or do they just eat it up?
Fans love it. Eminem sold so many records. We've got proof in the numbers that fans love him because he's broken records with all the albums he's sold, and he's winning Grammys, so he's been rewarded by the artistic community, by the fans, and poor Kim is just kind of victimized here.
All right, as you may know, Kim has a twin sister named Dawn. She's struggled with a substance abuse problem. Investigators say in recent years that Dawn lost custody of her son, who Kim and their mother have guardianship of. Listen to this.
911, where's your emergency at? My daughter stole my husband's navigator out of the driveway and kidnapped my grandson. Okay, whose child is it? It's her son, but she doesn't have legal guardianship over him. The court took him away. Okay, the court took the child away from her and placed her in mine and my my daughter's care, my other daughter's care.
Do you know where she might be going?
Going down to Detroit near Caju and Harper. To get drugs.
To get drugs.
Yeah, she's a real bad drug addict.
She's on the run. She's trying to find somebody to come get her, to leave my car, and take off with my nephew.
I mean, this is real gripping stuff, and it's true life. So when you report this kind of stuff, what kind of a reaction do you get from people back?
People are fascinated by Kim's life. She's had so much drama, and we always talk about stories are interesting when they have the big events, when they have marriage and children, and her story has every element to it. Her life could be a movie.
Her life could be a movie, but she doesn't want to be a star. Now, Kim and Eminem finalized their divorce in a Detroit courtroom on December 19th. Just days later, Kim was in the news again, but this time not because she was in trouble. On December 26, 2006, Kim Mather's twin sister Dawn Scott took her parents' SUV and allegedly kidnapped the son she had previously lost custody of. When police spotted the SUV at a gas station, they say Dawn fled, leading them on a brief foot chase. She was then arrested on a complaint of child kidnapping and an unrelated probation violation. All right, after we traveled to Detroit to interview Kim, she planned that she was going to travel to New York City. She wanted to join us in our studio, she said, but unfortunately, since her divorce and then her sister's arrest, she wasn't able to come. Okay, now they're divorced for the second time. Any thoughts about what's going to transpire now?
I'm sure Kim hopes that this will be the end of her life in the spotlight because she never asked for it, never invited it in. But I think as long as she has any kind of relationship with Eminem, and she will because they have children together, she's going to still be in the spotlight. And everyone's interested to see, will they get back together? Will they get married a third time?
How unusual is it for a spouse to say, no, not at all? I don't want any of it.
It's pretty unusual. Everyone today wants to be famous. Everyone's standing in line for hours to be on reality TV shows, and it's very unusual that she has fought against the spotlight so much.
Said none of it. Okay, when we were in Detroit, we asked Kim what she wanted the world to know about her.
I want the world to know that I realized that I made, mistakes. And I can't hide them, I mean, they're out there. But that I've learned from them, and that I've grown, and that I'm a wonderful, caring mom, and I just don't want people to pass judgment as soon as they see me or hear my name.
Before doing this interview with Kim Mathers, we had no idea what to expect. People really don't know who the woman behind the music and the headlines really is. After doing the interview, I found her compelling, articulate, and intelligent, and she made it clear to us that her priority was being a wonderful mother to her kids, which we applaud. We've tried to reach Eminem for a comment. He hasn't responded. However, Eminem has responded publicly that Kim's statements about his drug use, in particular, that they're untrue. I want to thank Kim for sitting down with us, and I also want to thank Jill Dobson from Star Magazine for joining us.